I thought that we had covered most of this topic, but I kept digging, and we are not even close. The hypogeum is an enormous subterranean structure, excavated 4,524 years ago, lifting huge blocks of limestone, all thanks to this group yet again for their input. Today, we are going back for more. For anyone new, we are speaking about the hypogeum, located in Malta, more specifically, in the town of Paola, where they found this underground temple in 1902, discovering it while constructing houses, blocking the public, all of us, from the area for nearly a decade, where they found 7,000 elongated skulls, destroying most of them, and then hiding the remaining ones from the public. And we have shown all of this. Now today, I wanted to go back because there are things that blew my mind. Right here, one of the most striking characteristics of this location is that some of the chambers appear to have been cut in imitation of the architecture of the above ground megalithic temples. Doing all of this underground. Are you seeing what this means? I'll keep going. Where they found false bays and windows. Underground windows. Can you see very clearly now? This temple is underground now, but I don't believe that it always was. Most importantly, the ceiling with one ring of carved stone overhanging the one below to supposedly imitate a roof. Imitating a roof? Or was this just a roof? Was this a temple just on the ground level when it was constructed with the event that we've talked about so many times, burying it, and in doing so, killing the 7,000 plus individuals inside? Is the previous civilization, just like we found here, buried under our feet right now, all over the world, and we have yet to find it? And to prove our point here, the mainstream thinks this was some sort of burial ritual, saying that it appears that the bodies were probably left exposed until the flesh had decomposed and fallen off, when in reality, these individuals were most likely killed on the spot from the event that took place. And if there were any that didn't die immediately, they would have been trapped underground. Individuals were not buried separately, but piled onto each other. This is all according to our friends right up here at the top. It makes so much more sense that this was not a burial site at all. It was originally above ground, and they were then trapped under the ground in this event and tossed the deceased into the pile. Remember, this event melted structures all over the world. We have shown so many examples of this. The original structure definitely could have been melted, now leaving it look like it was chiseled. Chiseled with an antler, like we have shown. We have seen so many times all over the world that the old world is buried below our feet. Something massive happened here, 100%. It's undeniable at this point. And like I said, I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to show you even more. So I went back to the hypogeum of the Volumnus family, located in Italy. This site includes about 200 tombs, and then finding this one in 1840, and then knowing all about the 2nd and 3rd century BC. They found this one while carrying out excavation works for a new road, where it seems like it was used until the 1st century BC. It seems like it. Unbelievable. Having 10 rooms and 2 winged demons guarding the entrance. Again, finding all of this while putting in a nice road and a sidewalk for all of us, showing that most people have no idea what is under their feet. We haven't even found it all, and we know this. And it all predates the horses and wagons nonsense. stone structures of winged demons, an advanced group underneath our feet. And then it all goes back to dirt roads and sheds. No technology and writing by feather. Or are we not being told the truth? You tell me. Remember, we are in Italy, and I told you we were coming back for a reason. Are you ready? Right here in front of the main entrance sits a collection of urns found in the necropolis in other tombs, belonging to other families. It seems that they were all painted with various scenes, some with the griffin. The griffin, yet again, Tartaria. I don't believe that this griffin was so mythical after all, and I don't think it was here that long ago. With other representations of Greek mythology, not so mythical after all in my opinion, and found because we were going to build a road. Oh, and what happened to that guy's head? Maybe there was a random earthquake 800 years ago that just wanted his head and left everything else just perfectly fine. Now check this picture out. This was found making a road. I just cannot even imagine what else we haven't seen yet or has been removed from us already. This is incredible. Our history is missing so much. The reset clearly took place within the last few hundred years, throwing us right back into the horse and wagon era, removing all technology, removing all the history, all the knowledge about this place that we all live. I've seen enough at this point where I believe that there were angels here, as well as demons, and I have no idea if they're really gone. Again, this place was found in 1840. This is the timeline that we have talked about so many times. Our current civilization, all of us, starting back in the 1800s. We have episode 10 and 38 that show everything that's been given back to us within these last few hundred years. Who lived here before we all got here? It's crazy to look at the depictions of the past. If they didn't put it all in stone, we would have no idea what used to be here, because we're definitely not told about these things, about demons or angels being involved with humans. And we all know that that story was removed from the book. The narrative that demons and angels were involved with the humans, this narrative is folklore, supposedly. Yet, we see the angels and we see the demons intertwined into the buildings, right into the stone, into the stories that are being depicted on these buildings within the stone art in every single continent. Clearly, this was the civilization that constructed the old world palaces. This one on the bottom right looks like he has a tool in his hand, having huge hands for being so small. Same with the other one on the left. But it's all just art, of course. We get a good look at the whole room right here. And see where they found these. It's right when you walk in. And I wouldn't be shocked if they are guarding something behind that wall. And let's be honest, we all know that we're not seeing everything that was originally down there before they found it. Things were removed. We all know this now. Should I prove it? Well, right here, we can see that there were items in here. And this is today. Could you even imagine 100 years ago, this place that we all live was probably a free-for-all. So today we get this photo. The chains are up. We have a bunch of items here all over the floor. Then flipping to this photo, it's all gone. Even the thing on the wall is changed. The other one is just removed. So we know that whatever was down here in 1839, a year before they found it, unfortunately, it is not here anymore. And let's just be honest, it's shocking that they left anything at all. If they would have just taken all of these statues out, we probably wouldn't suspect a thing. All found underground while making a road in Italy. Absolutely incredible stuff. And look where this place is located. If you were just driving past, you would have no idea. that this is in there. Look at this. It honestly looks like they want it to be hidden. It's so weird. If you were walking past this place, never done any research, you would have no clue that this is inside. It's crazy. Just knowing that. Could you imagine what is underneath all these people's houses? Or at least what was. Surely there are tunnels. And I bet people go to this musical academy today and have no clue that this is right next to them. We have a bar right here to the right, and I bet none of them know what's inside the building to the left. An incredible operation worldwide to suppress our true history. I'm glad thousands of us know about this place now. Let's go to Syria. Staying with the hypogeum topic, because this one is just insane. The Hypogeum of Yarhe, where the underground tomb was supposedly built in 108 AD, not 107 and not 109. Can you believe this nonsense? I need everybody to understand that they are not pinning down the date of 108 AD. It's not happening. And they go on to say that this underground tomb was originally located in the Palmyra's Valley of the Tombs before being excavated and restored, destroyed. The underground tomb was then moved to Damascus in 1935 and was then moved again and placed in its National Museum. Can you even imagine what we are not being shown? This is insane. Moving things around in 1935 and later placing it somewhere else. And you can see here with the AI ChatGPT that they are influencing it. If you didn't know the truth, they are trying to change this narrative. I asked when it was found, and the AI says it was found in 1983. So I replied that I thought it was moved to Damascus in 1935, like we were told. The AI replies, "You're correct. It was indeed moved to Damascus in 1935. Here's the correct information for you." Can you believe this? Overriding the truth. Why are they so against telling us the truth? Over and over. Hiding that they moved it. Can you believe that we have to correct the AI? Very clearly, a human entered that information in there about this story. So I said, what year was it found? Because it does not want to answer this question. Finally giving us the answer after backing it into a corner and pulling its teeth. It was found in 1933. And they did not want to tell us this. Because once you know that it was found in 1933, you know that they moved it in 1935 to Damascus, just 2 years later. So finding this and then moving it 2 years later. So what else did they find in Palmyra? What was wrong with the first location? Why did it need to be moved so fast, 150 miles away? Remember, this thing was just fine for centuries. This is according to them, their narrative. So what I want to know is, why did they need to move it? The decision to move it to Damascus in 1935 was driven by the need to protect and preserve it. Can you believe this? So we are clearly not going to be told the truth here. The carvings were vulnerable due to the exposure of the elements, the temperature fluctuations, a bunch of lies, since they just told us that this thing was there from the year 108 on the dot. Moving it to Damascus in 1935 made it more accessible to scholars, historians, and archaeologists. Oh, the poor archaeologists. They can't get in their car and go see the historic site, so they just needed it moved closer to their apartment. It's embarrassing. This narrative is a joke, and this statue right here in the middle, he also got his head chopped off. Now that we know they are hiding something massive about this, now I'm going to go back to the original site and investigate what is going on there in Palmyra, Syria, because we know that something is off now. All right, this is the site today. Palmyra, Syria. You are now being exposed to the world. Let's have some fun. Palmyra meaning the city of palm trees. No palm trees. But I do see a massive palace that has been completely destroyed. A palace from the old world, 100%. And what is this? 8 years ago, we get an article that this group right here is destroying the old world, destroying the Venice of the sands, piece by piece. Will this organization erase the memory of the extraordinary history? In 1900, a British traveler, Gertrude Bell, wrote, "I wonder if the world presents a more singular landscape. It is a mass of columns, ranged into long avenues, grouped into temples, lying broken in the sand. Beyond them is the immense Temple of Baal." More destroyed heads right here. Every single one of them are destroyed. And when I say we are just getting started, you have no idea. I wish that I could speak and we could all edit faster here and put this all into one episode, because there is so much that I can't wait to share. Clearly, we have located a site that is from the old world and was extremely important to a civilization that was here. To give this a little context, for anyone new to this research, within the Old Testament, Baal was worshipped by the Israelites. Worshipping Baal was seen as a major threat to the worship of Yahweh, the God of Israel. This text gets really deep. I won't be reading it all, but you can see a lot of it. The worship of Baal is often associated with moral corruption. The biblical authors depict Baal worship as leading the Israelites into practices that are contrary to the laws and moral expectations set by Yahweh, including rituals of these two things. With Jeremiah 19:5 stating that the Israelites are condemned for building high places to Baal and burning this as offerings. Now, let's get back to this location. What was going on here? What was going on in Syria before we all got here? What was going on at the Temple of Baal? A photo from 2009. Again, all of the faces removed over and over, everywhere in the world. In the background here, we have a structure that has been completely melted, in my opinion. So knowing what we know about this location now, let's go further. The temple was built on a tell. Do we all understand what that means? A tell is an archaeological term referring to a mound or hill that forms from centuries of human settlement over time as people build and rebuild in the same area. Each new layer of construction builds on top of the old. When a temple is built on a tell, it means that the temple is constructed on top of this layered mound of the past civilizations. Can you even believe what we just read? The Temple of Baal is constructed on top of a previous civilization's work, a tell. There is 100% more beneath this temple, and we now know that. This temple that we just saw was most likely not used for positive things, was then converted into a Christian church in 1132. They just couldn't help it. They had to pick the place that had crazy things going on, including sacrifices and rituals. Couldn't they have picked a different place? No, they couldn't. The 1920s comes around, and they cleared the temple grounds of all of its post-classical elements. They destroyed it. Clearly something happened here in this location. Advanced technology, 100%. Advanced construction. And I have no idea whether this previous civilization that was here was a great bunch. I don't know if they were great beings with great morals, but what I do know is that we are not being told the truth about them. And we also know that they could easily construct palaces. And it was not with a hammer and chisel, and they were not riding around on horses. The previous civilization had all of the technology that we see today. and so much more. We are being given some of this technology back slowly, and we know this now. Now I'm going to take this to Google Earth and show you this area. Look at all these columns all the way down this road. We get the amphitheater, hammers and chisels, of course, donkey riding cowboys of the past. No. It's like an old world city here. They have palaces all over the place, like some sort of resort or something. And they have a stage where who knows what took place right here. Then, well, just based on what we read, I think we kind of know. Then we have another destroyed structure here. This place is completely destroyed. Stone all over the place. Again, look at this road. The whole thing is filled with columns. Did any one of us learn about this place in our history classes? No? Why not? I think we all know why. Spinning the camera around so we can see it, look at this. With arches and everything. More columns over here. Another palace in the background. And then, of course, the Temple of Baal. Remember, we know that there are structures from the past right underneath this place as well. Keep that in mind. Look at the size of this temple. It's massive, measuring out to 434,893 square feet. Its perimeter is a half mile. Now I'm going to put that into perspective and measure the Great Pyramid of Giza, the biggest one. It's basically the exact same size. The pyramid in Giza has a slightly longer perimeter of 0.56 miles. This Temple of Baal was massive. This is crazy. This site is huge. Just random columns all over the place. Look at this picture, showing that there was so much more. And then we see the Statue of Liberty right on the site. Now, when we go back and see that they removed this from this location in Syria and moved it to Damascus in 1935, we can see that this was most likely happening over and over and over in the early 1900s, removing so many things that we don't get to see today. Just like we were told when the 1920s hit, they cleared the temple grounds of its elements, taking everything of significance from this site and hiding it from all of us 100%. This is so clear now. This research shows that we are missing so much of the true story. Massive stone structures, hundreds of columns, arches towering over us while we walk through. We all got reset, back to donkeys and wagons. Reset from stone palaces to wooden huts. No lights and freezing in the winters. Going to the bathroom in your backyard. The further that we go into this research, the more we have to ask, where are we? And what are we not being told? Who is controlling this ridiculous narrative that we're all taught since day one? And why? The further that we go, the more we advance our knowledge, we see patterns. We see the flaws clearer and clearer. And once we all know the truth, we will never go back. The Temple of Baal, located in Syria, is so much more than just crumbled stone. In my opinion, it is a haunting reminder that the previous civilization had a very dark side. We showed the Temple of Baal, but did you know that right next to this site in Syria, we have a castle from the old world, located up on top of a cliff, where we all know just by looking at this and all of the research that we've done to this point, we know that this thing is so much bigger and has been completely melted and turned into sand. We know that they told us that the Temple of Baal, that is right here, right next to this castle, where I believe they were both constructed by the same group during the exact same period. We were told that the Temple of Baal was found in 32 AD. 32 AD. Not 31, not 33, but pinning it down to 32 AD. With a side note that we are correct yet again. it is inaccessible today due to being in a war zone. War zones. These zones, in my opinion, are to block the public from seeing what was there, or what still is. When the main entrance has been destroyed, a great way to destroy the true history, to just blow it up and chalk it up to a war. So 32 AD, this one is constructed, 2,000 years ago. Then they wait like 1,200 years to build a castle. This is what we are being told, right next to each other, 1,200 years apart. I think this is very obvious that these structures were constructed during the exact same time period. This entire location was clearly an old world city, a palace city, and I don't believe it was thousands of years ago. I believe it was so much closer to our timeline than what we are being told, and has been mostly destroyed, making it look older than it is. With our friends over here at this group, interested in our favorite locations yet again, stating that this one is one of the most important cultural centers of the ancient world, the old world, the previous civilization. This is the Tadmor Castle, and was placed on the list of World Heritage Sites in Danger in 2013 due to an ongoing Syrian civil war. The castle was captured by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant in 2015, then recaptured in 2016. Now remember, it was supposedly perfectly fine for centuries until our timeline comes around and it starts being captured every year and then put into dangered war zones. What kind of season does this sound like to you? Making the case stronger and stronger, making it sound like a little season to me, with the Book of Life on the way. It's all very interesting, with retreating ISIS fighters blowing up parts of the castle, including the stairway, leading to the entrance, causing extensive damage, all right in front of our faces. Yet I would bet even some of our greatest history majors have most likely never even seen this place before. All by design. This location definitely wasn't highlighted in History 101, 102, or whatever other number they want to make up. With a few more captures here in 2016, and again in 2017. Every year, recapturing this place. It's ridiculous. And even more ridiculous is that we are told that this was built by the Mamluks. And why is this ridiculous? Well, because Mamluks translates to one who is owned, or down here stating much clearer, originally the Mamluks were this word. Again, not going to say that word ever again here, since we had a major issue with it in the past. So we're going to leave that word alone, but you can see it right here. So let's read this again. The Old World Palace Castle was built 1,200 years later by a bunch of Laves with an S at the front. These stories are insane. To believe that this kind of group can construct a palace castle that lasts forever is insane to believe at this point. While they were purchased property, their status was above ordinary. The people that worked for free back in the 1300s, these are the people that we are told are the master builders of the past. It's incredible. No training necessary, just going up on that cliff with no power tools, in the sand and building a palace castle 800 years ago. And it just so happens that it's right next to hundreds of columns and a temple the size of the Pyramid of Giza. All a coincidence, of course. No. So because there's a war going on here, we don't get to drop the guy down on this location and look around. Could you imagine waking up and here's the supermarket with your sports club over here and a hair salon. Then you have temples, castles, and the Tower of Elebol, all right outside your window in the morning, all dating back 2,000 years. Thanks to the experts, we know this now. Well, no, we don't. When we all show up and the tower was demolished using explosives in 2015, this is a clear attack on the true history. to hide what really happened here where we all live, blocking sites off from us, calling it a war, and then bombing these places. It happens over and over. In this shot, we also see the Damascus Gate. This is Palmyra. So I'm gonna guess that this was renamed, since Damascus is 134 miles away. And I could honestly look at this picture all day. I believe this picture proves that the history that we were all given is a complete lie. It proves that something happened here. An extremely advanced group was here and is now gone, and is 100% being hidden from all of us, telling us that we are the most advanced group to ever be here. This lie is no longer acceptable. Clearly, there's been a civilization, and most likely civilizations, that have been here with incredible technology, and their construction proves this. It's left here all over the place for all of us to see, which is exactly why they have to blow it all up. Because it takes the mainstream narrative and it rips it right in half. It completely destroys story time for the mainstream lovers. We are exposing it all and proving that this place that we all live is so much more than what we are told. Obviously, I had to come back to this location. It's extremely significant to our research and needed to be explored further. Having columns destroyed all over the place, telling us that this is from 2,000 years ago, a site that none of us can go and see today. Regardless of which religion the historical sites worshipped, or still do, I believe that they are very important to understanding the true past of this place that we all live, and should not be destroyed today, just because we don't agree with what they were used for. This being said, there are some groups here today that may be planted to destroy the true history, and they might not agree with what I just stated. When this group, having a history of destroying ancient structures, stating that they would destroy any artifacts that they didn't agree with religiously, and proceeded to detonate a large quantity of explosives inside the temple of Baal-Shem-In, completely destroying the building in 2015. And I want to be very clear, this is a separate temple than the Temple of Baal that we've previously covered, where the temple was also destroyed. Not only did they destroy both of these temples, they also destroyed the monumental arch. The same exact arch that I said I could look at all day, because it gives it all away. That arch is gone. When it was officially destroyed in 2015, destroying structures and sites all over the world. Sites that easily prove that something is off about what we've all been told. And they say they have plans to rebuild it. Right. Yeah, you're not rebuilding that. We all know that's not going to happen.
Too many beautiful cities. I've seen those cities are so beautiful, and that, I don't know how you can ever rebuild them the way they were. It's not possible. I don't know how you can ever rebuild them the way they were. It's not possible.
When this is our civilization's replica, at this point we shouldn't even embarrass ourselves. Saying we're going to rebuild things from the old world, it actually exposes the fact that we can't do it, or it takes so much longer. It exposes the truth. Blowing this site up using dynamite, and in 2016, very little of the arch remained standing. You are always free to think whatever you'd like. As always, I am simply speaking based on everything that we have seen throughout so many hours of research here. Now, I do believe that this was most likely the site where Baal was located. I also don't believe that this took place thousands of years ago. Like I've stated, I believe that this is why there is an obvious attempt, even to this day, to destroy it all. To prove my point, why didn't anybody go in there and destroy this place in 1650? Why not 1420, the year 1000? Well, it's because, of course, in my opinion, those years are not real, at least the way that we think about them. I believe the actual year is fabricated. I don't believe that this temple was erected 2,000 years ago. There was an advanced civilization here that constructed these things within the last few hundred years. And all of their work is here for us to see. And I do not believe that these so-called myths are so mythical after all. I think this place that we all live today is much different than we all understand, where we are all coming together and exposing the lies, showing the massive flaws in the stories. We are told that they are myths, and then see massive temples all over the place that are being destroyed over and over. Proof that what we're being told is a lie. Proof that a group of people were here that understood construction. Why hide a place from all of us if it's all just a myth? In mythological texts, Baal's dwelling is described as a magnificent palace with silver and gold, guarded like a fortress. All a myth, of course. Not anymore. The Temple of Baal was one of the most important temples in the ancient Near East and served as a focal point for religious ceremonies. Religious ceremonies, including sacrifices, just like we talked about in episode 97. All a myth, of course, with palaces all over the place, and the whole thing blown up right in front of our faces. All a myth, with text frequently describing this taking place. All dedicated to this figure. Not only do we see this figure in text from modern-day Syria, we see it written on clay tablets. We also see it in the Bible, the Old Testament, mentioning Baal worship multiple times, with references to this, with their locations right here. All just a myth, of course. Oh wait, what is this? Archaeological excavations at ancient Baal worship sites, such as Palmyra, found remnants that suggest sacrificial activity, showing that these so-called myths may not be so mythical after all. Just like we've seen so many times. Finding bones at the site with multiple texts confirming this activity. Again, you are always free to think whatever you'd like, but I don't believe that these texts are from thousands of years ago. I believe our timeline is a total mess and a complete fabrication of our true history. There are certain groups that still worship certain things today. Do you think that they're just worshiping a mythical creature? You tell me. Now, we were told that they were uncovering bones at Palmyra, the exact same location that we have been investigating today. They also mention another location. Before we enter this location, we need to understand that there were texts found in this location. They found the text titled The Baal Cycle, a collection of texts. The Baal Cycle is composed of several epic poems or narrative fragments. The Baal Cycle provides indirect evidence of the types of rituals and offerings associated with Baal worship. They found all of this right here. They reflect the importance of rituals in ensuring Baal's favor and prosperity of the community. All of this within the text. Rituals included offerings which were sacrificed to appease Baal and secure his blessings. The sacrifices were performed by priests. And then we can go back to the catacombs and see what they have done. Right underneath so many churches. What have they done? What have we just found? Have they been practicing something that worships the opposite side without any of us knowing it? Using our structures that were originally meant for good. What practice has taken place worldwide? What are we seeing today? Did we just show the cause of the catacombs, a ritualistic intention, just like we have shown into geometric patterns, a sacrifice right under the church's floorboards, using the priest? We are told that the sacrifices were performed by the priests. This is unbelievable. just over 200 miles driving from the Temple of Baal, all located in Syria. We have this location where they found the tablets, the location in which they found the Baal cycle, the story. We are told that this is the location where the world got its first alphabet. And this is all documented, of course. No. With great fires taking place here as well. When they tell us the city seems to have been burnt, and the population probably diminished. Probably. Maybe. But we will never know according to the mainstream narrative. Just throwing things in there. It probably was from 32 AD. Probably. It might have been. Now they tell us that the city seems to have been burnt and the population probably diminished, but I have a feeling that they burned it down recently, just like every other city in the world. So going back to this map, we can see that there was something of significance going on here. And a side note really quick, look how you can drop the guy down all over Europe. But once you go further south into Africa and the Middle East, it's just mass amounts of land that are unavailable to our view. Thousands and thousands of miles of land that I'm sure have clues to our past, either sitting on top of or underneath the layer of sand. And so much being hidden from us. For instance, look at this. It looks like there's nothing here. Like all there is just a bunch of sand. But once you click on it, we have so much going on. Playgrounds and the rest. It's like there's a civilization there that is not what we are shown from the aerial shot. It's very odd. So let's go back to the action. We are now shown 5 main sites in this city. The fortress, the main palace, the Acropolis, another temple of Baal, and the temple of Dagon, where we all know here that there is so much under our feet that would blow our minds today. When we see that after the chance discovery by local peasants in 1929, they excavated this site, unearthing the palace, which also gave us the tablets and artifacts, the previous civilization, the old world. Finding more than 1,000 tablets in 1929, found right off the coast of modern-day Syria. Finding these tablets in 1929. It hasn't even been 100 years yet. Finding the Baal cycle. 1,000 tablets. Could you even imagine what they found? Finding the Baal cycle, including stories all about Baal. Now, what other stories are hidden below the surface? What are we not being shown? And what did they really find in 1929? Were any other stories found within those 1,000 tablets? What do you think? This place that we live is incredible. These are now places that we will all never forget. These are now stories that we will remember forever. Taking our research deeper and deeper, finding the truth all over the world, exposing that something massive happened right here where we are today. All happening within the last few hundred years. We're also exposing that the past, the old world stories, were being uncovered just 95 years ago in a location that we were told was mythical, where it doesn't seem so mythical after all. And the truth is going to be harder and harder to find the longer that we wait. Just like we see with these tablets, the site where the tablets were found has been affected by the conflict, and the exact extent of damage or loss to these specific tablets is less clear. They have removed the truth yet again. We are told that peasants found these stories just 95 years ago. 1,000 tablets is what we're told, when we know that there were probably more, and removing them from us right away, without a doubt. Withholding information that would go against the mainstream story. Telling us that the initial excavations revealed that they just found some pottery. Do you remember when I told you to remember the pottery? So they tell us they found some pottery. And don't forget the pottery. I believe the pottery is something that they give us so that we don't dig deeper. Don't forget this because I'm going to show it again in future episodes. Remember the pottery. I no longer believe this to be the case. I think we all know now that they found much more than just some pottery, especially when we know that they found royal palaces, where excavations revealed the remains of grand royal palaces, large multi-story structures with elaborate decorations and extensive facilities. They found all of this. And they found temples, including the Temple of Baal, finding high priests' libraries containing a wealth of texts. The high priest's library was particularly important for its collection of religious and mythological texts, including the Baal cycle, the legend of Daniel, and the death of Baal. These are the stories that we are told about, where we all know that there were so many more. All of this found in the 1920s, with more libraries located on the Acropolis, with more texts found in these libraries. Could you even imagine the information from the past that was found, that we're all not being told about? With access to the physical artifacts, the texts being restricted to ensure their preservation. Are we sure that this is the case? Restricting the public, impacting their accessibility to the public. It seems like an incredible excuse to me. And then making sure we all get excited about the pottery. I don't know about you, but I think I'm about done with all the pottery. I want to see the old world texts. I was going to wait until I went back to this incredible location to cover this city again. But there are so many buildings here in this location that we're just going to start in on this place right now. Welcome back to Edinburgh, Scotland, where we know about the Scots Monument. We've talked about it a little, but today we are going to be going even deeper into the narrative and the buildings surrounding it, including the Caledonian, a 5-star hotel in Edinburgh, Scotland, that holds a narrative that will show the world how childish and beyond immature the mainstream narrative really is. A narrative that, if it was ever trusted in your mind, should be done being trusted after what I show you next. A hotel that had a master architect by the name of John Moore Dick. If you can believe that one, where we have seen these ridiculous names so many times before. In my opinion, they are just total jokes, where they were probably laughing while entering that name into the story. And this whole thing was just supposedly constructed in 4 years. And of course, they have to throw the fire narrative right into the story, where the hotel was built on top of the stone, V-shaped station building that had recently been built as a replacement for the previous wooden station, which was of course damaged in a fire in June of 1890. And right next to this building, we have the Scots Monument. That's now a monument that you can't miss while walking around Edinburgh. All supposedly dedicated to a writer, Sir Walter Scott. Because we just whip these things together for writers nowadays. No, we don't. One of the largest monuments dedicated to a writer in the world, in my personal opinion, based on everything that we've seen. This was not created for a writer. This was here much longer than we are told, especially when we are told that Scott died in 1832, and 4 years later, 188 years ago. They just had so many master architects just hanging around the city that they were able to hold a competition, and the winner drew this up and knocked it out no problem. All for a writer that we only have a painting of. Now, we have a massive flaw in the narrative when we see that there is a monument of Sir Walter himself, a marble statue, fashioned from a single piece of marble. Now, the sculptor took 6 years just to sculpt this little tiny statue. And it's not even the same material or color as the rest of the structure, which is odd in itself. In my opinion, it was put there by our civilization. Yet, the entire monument supposedly took 8 years. Yet in all of the construction photos, the thing is done, as we have seen all over the world. And when we take a look at this photo, you can see the bottom of the photo is showing something in the dirt. Is this thing bigger than we can see under the ground? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And we have a few more photos that are very interesting, with none of it looking like it was brand new at all. Here's another photo from the area where we can clearly see an obelisk and the Edinburgh Castle in the background, which we have gone inside of in episode 8. Now, this entire city is insane. If you've gone to Harry Potter Land at Universal Studios, you are getting ripped off. All you gotta do is go to Edinburgh for the real thing. I'm just gonna show you this city on Google Earth for a minute. All right, so if we go over here, right across the road, we have the museum on the mound, which we are told has an extensive basement area where we know that these buildings most likely are all connected underground. We have shown this in Wisconsin. And if they're connected in Wisconsin, then they are definitely connected here in Scotland. Built over 220 years ago and completed in just 5 years. And this is what we're told. Even faster than the Scots Monument little statue. It's incredible. And the owner of this building is the Bank of Scotland. Another bank that gets an old world building. And we continue over here. We have what looks like a church, but they had so many of these structures that they just called this one a meeting place of the General Assembly. And they admit it. It looks like a church, but it's never actually been a church. And now, well, it's called the Hub, where they hold events. Just a nice place to hold events. So that's a first for me. I've never seen where they just have so many church-looking buildings that they just need to use it for something else. And this one was constructed in just 5 years. Also taking less time than that little statue at Scots Monument. And the clock was, of course, built by a guy and his son, which we've seen all over the world. The sons of the 1800s just knew how to get the job done. These buildings, this city, it is incredible. When I went there last time, I didn't know much about this topic, but even having very little knowledge of the subject compared to now, I knew that I was looking at something incredible the entire time. I really can't imagine what we would find if we went back. I think it would be a lot of fun. So right over here, right next to all of this, we have this massive castle where the mainstream narrative now just gets wild. Predating Donkeys Incorporated. Predating the 1800s masterminds. When the story's beginnings are from 931 years ago. When they know that the Queen died there in the year 1093. And then they had to wait 418 years to get anything else done when the Great Hall was finally completed for King James IV, where the king had little time to enjoy his new addition because he died 2 years later. And this is all documented. We have the paperwork on all of this. No. 1566, James VI comes around. And we've talked about the reoccurring names. And this is, in my opinion, another example of this, with brother-in-laws that are also named Henry VIII. And then we get a 13-month-old king. When 1603 rolls around, now the mainstream narrative is very entertaining if you really believe it. It's like a good sitcom. So James VI, the 13-month-old king that we are told about from 400 years ago, born in a castle and loved witchcraft. So we can see how close this all is to the Scots Monument. And right down the street, we just have palace after palace after palace. Have we found a place that is a better example of the old world that's possibly taking over my #1 spot over Budapest? This place is incredible. Located at 1 Prince's Street, we have the Balmoral, or originally the North British Station Hotel, a 167-room palace hotel where they needed another competition to knock out another palace. Can you believe this? They had so many master architects in the 1800s, while people were riding around on donkeys, saddling up to ride around town, with wagons attached to the back. They hold these competitions to construct massive palaces that last forever. Palaces that you don't see being constructed today in any of our towns. Yet, they were just supposedly throwing them together all over the place, over and over and over. Built in just 6 years, from 1896 to 1902. So the exact same amount of time that it took to build the statue over at Scott's Monument. I definitely want to stay here in this hotel one day, in the near future. And if I do, I'll make sure to share all about it. I want to see the inside and hopefully take a tour and see if these places have a basement. All right, and then we're gonna zoom out on Google Earth and see that they have multiple golf courses. Now I know this is where we were told that golf originated in Scotland, but we also know that golf courses cover a lot of land. We've seen multiple times how golf courses are most likely covering something up from the old world, like we have shown in our Balboa Park episodes, episode 55 and episode 56, as well as episode 33. There's something interesting going on here for sure. Now, we showed the obelisk, which is located at Calton Hill, right next to everything that we've shown today. And this is when we get the connection, where we get the Robert Burns Memorial, where there is a life-size statue of Burns himself. Burns himself. Burns himself? Really? Is this not another fire narrative, throwing it right into his name, like we've seen with F.L. Ames or Flames? And then the monument is, of course, no longer publicly accessible. And we all know this story revolves around Robert Burns. Yet the name Robert is thrown in a few more times, just to make sure that the clue has been given. When we see Robert Ferguson and Robert Louis Stevenson, what are the odds that we get like 5 people's names in a short story, yet 3 of the 5 names are the exact same name over and over, all over the world? In my opinion, that is not possible, that this would happen over and over and over. There is without a doubt in my mind something to these repeating names. And what is with all these dates of construction? I thought we were told that everything in Europe was built hundreds of years ago. That is the narrative that we are told. Yet, these construction dates, all in the 17 and 1800s, are all at the exact same time as all of the construction that is going on over in the USA. Besides for this massive castle that had a story about a 13-month-old baby king. That sounds a lot like a tale if you ask me. It's very interesting that we get palaces in Europe, all over Edinburgh, that look so much older than the buildings in the USA, and so many more of them in such a confined area, literally walking distances, yet they are supposedly built at the exact same time as the ones in the USA, like we've been told today. So let's just keep this in mind as we continue. So then we go over to the assembly rooms, located on 54 George Street, also in Edinburgh. And it's just building after building in this city, where they tell us that the building was designed by a guy named John Henderson. And this guy won a competition in 1781. So we have another contest between all of the master architects of the 1700s. Not only that, but we are also told that Henderson died before the building was done, which we have also seen over and over and over. And you can't leave the fire narrative out of it. When they extend the building in 1818 and William Byrne is chosen. So they didn't burn this one down, but they made sure to throw a burn in there. And of course, the government has taken over this building as well. And I'm just gonna show you all another example of this so that you understand what I'm talking about. And you know it's not just a one-off. When we click on a random castle in Dalmeny, Scotland, and they throw this sentence in here, which overlook the grazings around the mouth of the Cockle Burn. Or we go over to the Bute House, the official residence of the First Minister of Scotland, where in the middle of this AI-generated story, in my opinion, of course, they throw in this hotel switch up, where Ullman died in 1826. But the hotel continued to operate under the new ownership of his widow, Mrs. Grace Ullman, where her maiden name is, you guessed it, Burns. The Dalmeny House, where they have commissioned Robert Adam to design a new house. And in 1788, Robert Byrne helped out. They throw this in, where the son of the 3rd Earl, repeating names, and further plans were commissioned in 1805 with 2 more Williams and another Byrne. So we get Robert and William Byrne and 2 Williams, a 3rd Earl, and a 4th Earl. Oh, and of course, another William Wilkins down here. And you can't forget about Robert Adam and Robert Byrne as well. And this is all one paragraph, like we've seen all over the world with these buildings narratives. I'm surprised they didn't throw a 5th Earl in there, just for fun. And the interiors section, that section holds some names for everyone, if you'd like to find those in there yourself. And let's have some fun today. Let's show how insane this all really is. When we stay in Scotland for all of this, we're still in Edinburgh. We have the Kirk of the Canongate, where in 1863, fire damaged the church and probably destroyed the Canongate's records. Probably. Maybe. But the mainstream narrative is forever unsure when we know that they probably still have these records, and we are probably not being shown these records. We can even go to the Craig House, located at Craig House Road, also in Edinburgh, where the original house, we are told, burned down in a fire in 1544, on the dot. They have all of the documents for that. No, the Cuthbert's Church, Edinburgh, which I'm gonna tie this whole thing back in, where it is located right next to the hotel that we talked about at the start of this episode, the Caledonian. And we know that that hotel held a fire story in 1890. Well, St. Cuthbert's Church had some conflicts, we are told, where there was a fire set to the church in 1573. And not only did they have this fire, we are also told that in 1689, the church was damaged again by cannon fire from the castle. Now, I was really under the impression that the narrative was that in Europe, these buildings were all constructed in the 1500s or earlier. So it's really interesting to see that they were also, so we are told, being thrown together at the exact same time as the ones in the USA. Yet they are all so incredible and all so close to each other. Whereas in the USA, they are spread out across all the states. So here we have the Drum, which we are told had previous houses on the exact same site. You are all free to think what you like, as always, but the repetition is overwhelming in my opinion. Once you see the truth, there is no going back. So here we go. In 1584, he commissioned the mason architect to build a new house. The house was built in 1 year, with it being damaged by fire some years later, and again in 1629. But of course, we are told that it was rebuilt each and every time. Hundreds of years ago, no problem at all. Today, I'm going to attempt to take our thought process a little deeper. And we're also going to see a palace in Russia that we are told has a painter that died years before the construction was even close to being done. Because we all paint our house before it's built. No. Right here on stpetersburg.com, we are given a panoramic shot of St. Petersburg, Russia, with perfect dirt roads where I don't see a single person. Massive buildings everywhere, yet not one person. These photos are from 1861, only 3 years after they say that this was constructed. You can see this palace in the 4th shot in the panoramic view, where it's becoming clearer and clearer that these cities all over the world, palaces, were constructed by a massive civilization, one that was here before us, a civilization that had incredible technology, and a civilization that was here only a few hundred years ago, a civilization that is clearly being hidden to us. Yet their construction sits here looking at us straight in the face. These photos are alarming in my opinion. Everyone should be asking questions at this point. One question should be, who paved all of this dirt? Like it's all perfectly prepared for these photos. And I'm going to suggest an alternative, much less likely idea, an idea that should just be out there for people to think about. And possibly not just an alternative idea, but something that could definitely be an addition to what we have already known. that there was a previous civilization here before us. But after doing countless hours of this research on this topic, after looking at these photos, where these cities look like they were on display for all of us, almost like they were prepared for us, cleaned up perfectly, and ready for us all to come into the picture in the late 1700s. An idea that I'm just going to throw out there into the world for everyone to think about, instead of being just stuck in my head, is, are there two groups, one that actually cared about us, possibly created us, and set this stage for us, and one that does not care about us, with the corrupt group still being here, and the other group that built our incredible stage and felt that we deserved the greatest palaces to live in and use. The group that fully understood this type of incredible construction, possibly no longer here, with a corrupt group that ended up wanting to control an entire population, us. Changing the narrative to all of these buildings, hijacking all of the buildings, calling them Capitol buildings, banks. Buildings for them now, and no longer for us. Buildings that were always and originally meant for us, where they are now used as this group's offices to control us. Destroying the rest of the buildings with wars, great fires that weren't so great, tricking us for 200 plus years, giving us a ridiculous story that a group of people that had a population of basically nobody, that rode around on donkeys with no technology, were the master builders of stone-carved and marble basilicas that stand the test of time all over the world, when in reality it was a much more powerful group that is no longer here, or maybe they are, and watching from a distance. A group that set the stage for all of us, built all of these incredible buildings that we have been talking about this entire time. Temples, cathedrals, basilicas, Capitol buildings, houses that are white, and no, not the vinyl siding ones. Is it possible that we are so much more important, so much more powerful than we are told, and completely tricked and manipulated into thinking that we are just these lazy pawns to these corrupt individuals that stole our buildings, our land, making us feel like we're born just to work and sleep, just to struggle over and over, when in reality, our lives are so much more important and incredibly valuable. In reality, they have stolen our buildings, taken them from us, and giving us these depressing, ugly boxes in return, which are demoralizing to look at. We know that the historical narrative that we are currently given is complete nonsense. We have proven this, in my opinion. We have shown massive flaws, including the population lie, where supposedly we are being told that nobody wants to have kids with anyone for thousands of years. And then in the 1700s, out of nowhere, the human mind changes for the first time ever. Just a random fluke, we are told. And people finally enjoy each other's company and finally want to have kids with each other. And this narrative was accepted for far too long. What we don't know, and what we all want to know, is where we are. What is the truth? Who actually built these buildings? They are incredible, and nothing like the buildings that we build today. It's built by a different mindset. They're built with much more technology, much more information that we do not have. We are not taught these skills in our highest architecture classes. Which class shows us how to knock out a palace in a year with no power tools, no light bulbs, no shipping companies, nothing? That chapter was left out of the college architecture book. We all know this. These buildings that we all see in every single one of our cities, they tell a much different story than what we've all been told by the mainstream narrative. And this narrative, this lie, it only helps one group, and the group is not us. There was a previous civilization that was here before us, a civilization that was massive and held incredible technology. But there is a very real possibility in my mind that there are also higher powers that are possibly still here that set this current stage for us, and the game has now been corrupted. We don't advance our overall thought process by simply being quiet. Who maintained all of this dirt? We're being told that a civilization of no people had the capabilities to construct an entire palace city. And this city will last forever. Yet when you look at the finished product, there isn't a single person anywhere. It's empty. And here we have St. Isaac's Cathedral, located in St. Petersburg, Russia. And the inside just blows your mind, with massive doors, incredible detail, with a height of over 330 feet. And we are told the exact same story that we've seen all over the world, that this wasn't even the first structure. This one was the replacement. In fact, it was the fourth consecutive church standing at this place. The exact same location has had 4 churches here. This is what we're being told. I'm shocked that this pattern, that 4 buildings have been on the same site. How has this pattern not been identified before? We see the exact same thing, even over in Texas, when they have 7 courthouses on the exact same site. We've seen it all over. It's a repeating pattern. All of these narratives all over the world are, in my opinion, created by the same source. And in my opinion, based on everything that we've seen, it's an AI, very similar to ChatGPT. This palace has bronze doors, internal columns, statues on the inside, and of course, the interior was originally decorated with paintings that have been since painted over. And supposedly they reproduced them. They had to get rid of the originals because they deteriorated because of the cold and damp conditions inside. This is incredible how they get away with destroying the originals over and over. We are told that this building was constructed between 1818 and 1858, when we can easily catch this narrative in a lie. When we go to Vatican City and take a look at Sistine Chapel, where Michelangelo painted this in 1508 to 1512, supposedly, predating this Russian painting by over 300 years. And it's holding up just fine, unless, of course, Michelangelo had a better paint set. It's ridiculous. So the paintings should have been just fine in Russia. And this is when the story gets even weirder, when they tell us that during World War II, the dome was also painted over, making it gray, to avoid attention from enemy aircraft. So I hope we're all seeing very clearly at this point what these wars, seeing what their true purpose was. Clearly destroying these buildings, removing the inside because it was too cold. Give me a break. And they say the work was never completed. But when you take a look at the inside, it looks pretty completed to me. It doesn't even look like they missed one spot. And they tell us that the original paintings were done by this Karl guy and other random Russian masters of the day. And of course, no need to name these Russian masters of the day, but here is Karl. It was the pose of the day. Could you imagine if we gave information the way the mainstream narrative did? Just saying they were the flavor of the day, painted by the painters of the day, like it's some sort of special on the menu. It's incredible how this was accepted as fact for so long. It's shocking. And Karl died before the construction was done. Do we all paint our houses before the construction is done? Or is this the last step in the process? It is the last step. You don't paint your house years before it's done. He died in 1852. We are told that the building is done in 1858. So this guy that put the finishing touches on the palace is dead 6 years before the building is done. So we know we don't paint our house 6 years before it's done. Oh, and if we go down here at the bottom, we can see that this was his self-portrait. Very nice choice, Karl. Let's take a look at the technologies of this palace, where William Handyside is the engineer. So Handyside is the guy where they get 10,000 tree trunks and throw them into the marshy banks. So they want us to believe that there's just a bunch of tree trunks under this palace. And I know they are a bunch of liars at this point. So when we see something like this, I know to go deeper. This statement makes me think that there is something under this palace that has significant value. When we can see that this building has artwork and exhibits from a museum that were hidden away in the cathedral's basement. So now we know that this palace has a basement with valuables in it, and all chalked up to this war again. So they lay down these 10,000 tree trunks on a marshy bank and then knock out a massive basement on top of all that, and then build a palace and paint it before it's done, and then get rid of those paintings because it's a little too cold, but never finish those paintings, of course. Oh, and this is the fourth palace on the same site. It sounds like a lie. I wonder how much bigger this palace is underground, like we have seen in episode 44. when we caught a tunnel on camera from the Illinois State Capitol building while they were in the middle of destroying something and just call it a renovation project. So here's the construction photo that they give us. A photo from expresstoroussia.com. There's a big problem though with this picture. It's a drawing. And we know that they had cameras in 1816. So why give us a drawing? I've said this before, but it's so true. For all we know, they just drew this last night. It's a drawing. It's obviously not proof of construction, not even close. Here we are told we have a view of the cathedral surrounded by wood scaffolding from another drawing, drawn 3 years ago by a master drawer of the day, as the mainstream narrative likes to say. It's incredible. So in 1931, they turned this cathedral into a museum when, under the Soviet government, the building was stripped of religious trappings. In 1931, it was turned into the Museum of the History of Religion and Atheism. So the complete opposite of a cathedral. Going back to my suggestion that there's possibly a group that wants to take these buildings that were originally meant for us in a positive manner and turn them into the complete opposite, removing everything that was once given to all of us, a cathedral, changed to a museum of history and atheism, where the original dove structure was removed and replaced by a Foucault pendulum, which we all know at this point is some weird symbol for this group. Let's check this palace out, now that we know that this building's narrative is forever in shreds. So here we have the St. Isaac's Cathedral, and right over here we have another building that'll no longer be hidden in plain sight, the Mariinsky Palace. Now let's have some fun. And make sure you don't confuse it with the theater. And thank you for letting us know about this masterpiece. Is there a more entertaining topic? Finding buildings, palaces, that make no sense in the fabricated timeline that we're given. Palaces that we can actually go and visit, especially when we're told that this was built in a year. And unfortunately, the original building was destroyed by a fire in 1859. Adding to our fire total. Is your mind blown yet? Should we go deeper? The new one, the one that's here today, the palace opened up the very next year. So the theater's narrative is clearly a mess. So let's go back to this palace, where in 1839, they were building palaces as wedding presents. This is incredible. Built in 5 years, from 1839, and wrapped it right up in 1844. And then, of course, taken over by the Russian government and off limits to the public. Were these buildings built for them? It's definitely an interesting thought that these narratives are thrown together by this group as a successful attempt to steal these buildings from us and clearly getting away with it, and then create the passport so that if we want to go visit these lands that were once all ours, you need to make sure you have your papers. I don't think this was the world that was created for all of us. I think it was the complete opposite. And it's been 100% infiltrated worldwide. And it's beginning to feel more and more like everyone's starting to realize that. And I was looking at this area and saw these two buildings in the background that clearly look out of place. So let's check this one out first. A building that was taken over by the Russian Navy, where they tell us that an earlier wooden church sat on the exact same site. And then we have the other palace that we just saw. And remember, all of these buildings, they're all right next to each other. This is the Trinity Cathedral. Let's show the world that the lie is over. It's game over for the mainstream narrative. And there is no going back. We will all never forget this. The more and more people that see the lies, the faster the truth is going to be shown to us, where we are told that the Trinity Cathedral was constructed in 1828 to 1835. And in 2006, the blaze apparently started on scaffolding on the outside of the church, which was undergoing restoration. And we all know that restoration really means destruction. I have something to add on. Is there a world under our feet that we're unaware of? Buried by mud and dirt? Sure, New York and Chicago and the major cities have tunnel systems, and we know this. But where it gets crazy is that it isn't just the major cities. It's even in cities such as Oshkosh, Wisconsin. These tunnels underground have been used for many things back in the day. Back in the day? No, we aren't just brushing this one off anymore with the back in the day stuff. It goes on to say, one of those things was running liquor back and forth from building to building. So even in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, the buildings are connected underground with zero construction photos of anyone ever connecting a building to another one. Are you seeing the lie even clearer now? Should we go even deeper? Here we go. Now, I mentioned Oshkosh in episode 40, and we went there and saw that they have griffins on the top of their building. Now, we know this town also has a tunnel system that connects all the buildings together. So when I was showing how the windows are all below the current ground level, this is what I'm talking about. There is a tunnel system. These buildings are so much bigger than we can see. And how deep are these tunnels? What is down there? And you know, something crazy is going on in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, when you have massive military contracts awarded to Oshkosh Defense. On December 16th, 2022, Oshkosh Defense LLC announced that the U.S. Army placed a $543 million order. We are always told to trace the money, right? A massive military corporation providing aid to the Army, Marines, Air Force, and Navy. Who is really in charge of this town, setting up these kind of operations and massive contracts? So we have tunnels, massive military contracts, griffins on the buildings, pillars and columns everywhere. And there is a book called Oshkosh Down Under. And look at this stuff. We have photos of the entrance to the tunnel from the old Mercy Medical Hospital. Tunnels in the 1800s? Not only were they building above ground, but also below? Here we have the tunnel from the hotel to the Opera House. And there's even a sign saying tunnel to the courthouse. Remember, these tunnels connect all of the buildings, not just one. There is a massive tunnel system right below the sidewalk. So when you go back and watch episode 40, remember that there are now proven tunnels below where I was standing. This is crazy stuff. In the future, if you guys like this kind of stuff, I'll go back to Oshkosh and see if we can get inside the tunnels. And so we're clear, these tunnels were found and repurposed by our current civilization, in my opinion. This book states that they used the tunnels to transport prisoners from the jail to the courthouse, which they no longer do. But this is not what it was originally used for, of course. Here we have a photo of the entrance to the tunnel from the county safety building, taken by the city of Oshkosh. So these tunnels were no secret. It's incredible. Now in 1944, we have a witness that states she was working for Gateway Valley Wholesale Liquor, located next to a private garage. She left for lunch one day and saw an area that was going down into the hotel. And this opened up into a tunnel leading underneath the alley and into the hotel. She says that she remembers seeing glass cubicles that brought light down into the tunnel by using the sun, of course. And to prove her story to be true, there is a map below from the Sanborn Fire Insurance Map of 1903. So they had to report their map to the insurance company. And the map shows that there are in fact tunnels under the hotel. So when I was showing you all the windows that were at the current ground level in episode 40, and also the exact same thing most likely going on in ancient Champaign, episode 36, in my opinion, I think that all of these tunnels in all of these cities and towns lead to a central point. And I think that this point is where the Freemasons set up their lodge. I think the lodge is the central point of all the tunnels. But that's just where my opinion stands at the moment, based on all of my research. The police were the ones enforcing the prohibition. These tunnels lead from the courthouse to the jail, and all the places that were enforcing the prohibition, including the courthouse, and many other places, but my point is, this wasn't designed to smuggle alcohol by gangsters and bootleggers. You wouldn't design your tunnel to go right to the jail, or the courthouse, or the police station. These tunnels were used for a much different reason for the previous civilization. And how deep do these things go? Are there more that we don't know about? Are there buildings completely covered by the dirt that we can't see? And this is not the only town that this kind of stuff is taking place in. For example, we have the Ybor tunnels located in Tampa, Florida. There is no doubt that tunnels do exist under Ybor City, but their purpose is highly debated. The most common belief is that bootleggers or the Tampa Mafia dug the tunnels under many of the establishments along the city's main drag, connecting them to the port, allowing easy smuggling of shipments of liquor in and out of the city. So another narrative saying this was for smuggling liquor, with zero evidence as this was just a common belief. Who says that this is a common belief? Who gets to decide that? This is not what I believe at all. Not even close. I believe that these tunnels were there before, found and repurposed possibly, but not created for alcohol smuggling. This is crazy. All over the world they use this crazy narrative, building massive tunnels that connect so many buildings together perfectly. All for alcohol? No way. A reminder, of course, that this was done by a civilization that rode around on horses and couldn't even build a road. Dirt roads, but incredible tunnel systems around the world. Give me a break. They couldn't even build a road on the ground. Why should we believe that they could create connecting massive tunnel systems below the ground, all over the world, all for alcohol? And was there something that these tunnels had underground that we weren't allowed to see, or are possibly still there? Did they have the previous civilization's items, their technology? This is a classic example of using the previous civilization's technology and saying this is the first time. We really honestly don't come up with ideas very often. All of these things that we're told are invented in the last 200 years at rapid speeds and are all things that the previous civilization already had. And was there only one previous civilization? Or has this happened many, many times before? And do you want to see how this works? Do you think this is a one-off? Would you like to see how the narrative is coming from a single source, telling the narrator what to say to us, lying and repeating the same story over and over and over, just like the news, being told what to say and not actually showing proof of anything, just guessing and telling us that it is common belief, never even seeing a bottle of alcohol down in one of these tunnels, and we just accept it. Well, not anymore. We're all allowed to question it and use common sense and use only facts to form how we look at things. The tunnels of Benicia. Not only are we given the exact same narrative as the other two tunnels, but we are also given the exact same words. Bootleggers transporting alcohol through the hidden tunnels in California. This is the exact same story, yet thousands of miles away from each other. From Oshkosh to Florida to California. How do they all know how to make perfect tunnels underground, but cannot build a road on the ground? Never a mistake, just perfect tunnels, all connecting to all of the buildings. Now knowing this information, how can we even look at a building with windows under the current ground level the same ever again? And this paragraph is showing it to us again, that all of these things that we are suggesting make so much more sense than the crazy narrative that we are told, suggesting that there were people before us and that our narrative is lying to us about it for their benefit and to hold power over the people. Why would that be shocking? It isn't. It is also so much more believable than the crazy timeline that we are given. And the mistakes make it clear that there were dirt roads, yet there were perfect tunnel systems underground with no power tools. Who is transporting the people to these tunnel sites? An Uber? No. They were supposedly riding their horse home in time for dinner. Now this paragraph states that arguably a more proper and kid-friendly explanation. Wait, before we continue. They again don't know why these tunnels are here and just making things up. Okay, here we go. Some mysterious people that we don't know who they are say that the tunnels were originally created as an escape route for the town's elites. Believers of this theory claim that there was a tunnel entry point at the Capitol building, connecting to the clock tower and surrounding buildings. The underground route would allow for the city's elites to safely escape militaristic threats. Now, this tunnel system is supposedly connecting all the old world buildings together, exactly like we have shown in the other cities. My question is, what in the world is underground? And how big are these buildings? I definitely don't think that the dirt is just hiding some tunnels. These old world buildings that look insane above ground must have unbelievable stuff underground that we cannot see. How big is the Cologne Cathedral? What kind of tunnel systems are under these major cities? It's incredible stuff. The door is now wide open for us to go even deeper, literally and figuratively. If we're able to get our hands on technology that can see underground, one day, this could be bigger than we ever imagined. Oh, and we're not done yet, because I'm not leaving evidence on the table. We have the Bavarian tunnel system, where we are told, and I quote, that there were 3 separate tunnels connected to at least 4 different buildings at the Bavarian brewery. More alcohol and more tunnels and more buildings. And even more uncertainty from the narrator. The north entrance was reportedly in the boiler house, but it may have been in the engine room structure which was converted to a bottling department after Prohibition. So it might have been, but we really don't know what we're talking about, because we found these tunnels and we're clearly lying. Let's scroll down and take a look at this together. And keep in mind what words they are using. They don't know how these tunnels got here. What they write is a complete lie in my opinion. Here we go. They also illustrate that Tunnel T3 had been bricked up by 1950. Wait, what? They bricked the tunnel up? I wonder what they didn't want us to see in 1950. And this was probably done sometime during Prohibition, but of course they aren't sure. And we are supposed to just accept that. There would have been staircases in both of these buildings providing access to the tunnel. And it is believed, but totally unsure again, in the exact same paragraph, there is so much guessing and uncertainty, but it is believed that Tunnel T2 was used beginning in 1907, possibly until the brewery was closed in 1966. Possibly. So they are unsure about all of this. They don't know anything. They are trying their best to explain away massive tunnel systems that were here in the 1800s, that do not fit into the narrative, that connect massive buildings together during a time period that people supposedly had candlelight. Do we all understand how hard it would be to dig out all of this dirt and form massive tunnel systems? The dirt would have to go somewhere. Do you think nobody would notice this dirt? And this would take so long that surely somebody would notice the dirt sitting there eventually. They didn't have dump trucks that could take the dirt away in a day. Surely somewhere in the world where these tunnels were being built, some authority figure would have some questions. Like, what are you guys doing over there? With massive amounts of dirt piling up and thousands of pounds of limestone for the walls. The narrative sounds so insane and a joke, because it is. And I'm so thankful that we are on the other side of this narrative now, not just blindly accepting it because we're told to. So what happened to this tunnel? Well, in 2017 to 2019, during the construction of the Kenton County Government Center, Turner Construction reported encountering multiple tunnels. So there were even more tunnels than we're told about. And T2 and T3 were in their way. So Turner demolished the tunnels. So let's move to Cincinnati, Ohio, where 40 feet below the current ground level, 10,000 square feet of tunnels were supposedly built in 1855. Now, after everything that we have said, this is just insane. Another tunnel system in the 1800s, and they aren't going to tell us that this one was used for alcohol too, or will they? Oh, of course they will. This one belonged to the Link Brewery, which was a half a mile away from the tunnels. What? Wait, the brewery was a half a mile away from the tunnels, but they are taking credit? Why did they need massive tunnels? To age the beer in underground tunnels? Are you kidding me? After Prohibition ended in 1933, the tunnels were useless and filled up and destroyed. Wow. This, in my opinion, is literally proving that Prohibition was an excuse for these tunnels. And now that we can drink alcohol again, we're all cool with them just destroying these tunnels from the past civilization. Over and over and over. This is the excuse. But in January of 2018, they accidentally made a mistake and discovered more tunnels during renovation. So 2 months later, they didn't have any other choice but to show them off to the public. And what do they care? Everyone is buying the narrative at this point that these massive tunnel systems are here because of the alcohol ban from back in the day. You can even see in Atlanta, Georgia, where their city is basically all above ground. And there are stores underground that used to be there. It's so weird. And Kansas City has one too. And then we were told in about 1887, a 22-foot wide, 18-foot tall, and 810-foot long tunnel system right under the people's feet in Kansas City. Why have we not gone and investigated this one? Well, it was sealed off in 1956 and basically forgot about. I wonder why it was forgot about. Well, maybe because it was sealed off. Definitely an agenda, working all over the world, working together to hide the true history. And we see it over and over again, covering so many different topics, the tunnel system being only one of them. I hope you all enjoyed this episode today. I've always been really interested in the tunnel systems and all of the underground stuff, including Denver Airport, where they supposedly built a brand new airport when they didn't even need a new airport, that now has a lot of buildings that were buried and connected underground. So the past civilization showed the way, and it continues today, right in front of our faces and now right below our feet. If you all like this video and want to see more, Subscribe, like, and let me know in the comments below. The more we dig, the more we find. Here we have an image of a diploma for the American Pacific Exposition and Oriental Fair for Portland, Oregon in 1905. So 1904, they have the St. Louis World's Fair. 1 year after, we get this one in Oregon. This diploma is very interesting. As we go down to the bottom, we have a photo, and we can clearly see in the background 2 airships, both looking different. They normally don't show this form of transportation in these photos. They normally blank out the sky. But as we look up all of these countries, we see the big ones, and then we see Caucasia. Have any of us heard of a country in the 1900s named Caucasia? I personally have never heard of Caucasia, which is similar to Tartaria. All of these countries that we were never told about. But this one wasn't hundreds of years ago. This was 1905. So they are now, in my opinion, lying and telling us that Caucasia, or Caucasus, is a region that has a bunch of countries in it, including Russia, which we all know have connections to Tartaria. But let's take a look at this list again from 1905. They are already listing Russia on this map with Turkey, France, Holland, Germany, Switzerland, Italy. All of these are countries. They are not regions. I'll say it again. These are countries. Why would they then throw a region in there randomly? That doesn't make any sense. I think we are finding, in my opinion, that there is more land that we aren't being told about that was here in the 1900s. And I think Caucasia is being hidden from us right now. So we were given a photo with the airships in the background in the sky. So I went digging and found this photo from 1905, World's Fair in Oregon, showing more airships. In my opinion, and a few others, this form of travel was all over the place. It wasn't just created in the 1800s, and the Hindenburg event was used as a scare tactic to make these airships look faulty, removing this free energy form of transportation technology out of our lives. Do you really think that they put a gas in these airships that would be so incredibly flammable and fly them over massive cities? Or does it make more sense that this Hindenburg event was a planned event to get rid of this free form of travel and wipe it from the history books? Here we have a photo of one of these airships sitting in between the 2 spires of the Old World building. You can see that they use these spires to electrically charge these airships, and this was common knowledge. And in the very next photo, it's leaving the port. We are not given the truth about our history. This isn't something that we are ever told about in our mainstream schooling system all over the world. Do you find that odd? Let's keep digging. We see that the US Army had this technology in the 1800s, as well as the Navy. Now, this is a photo from July of 1931, and we clearly have an airship charging at the top of this building. So we have a lot going on here, and this was within the last 100 years. An airship charging at the top of this tower. Did you think they only charged at the top of buildings? Of course not. They had charging docks in the middle of the water. Here we have a photo of the US Navy airship in 1924, charging from this boat. Now let's zoom in on this charging station to get a good look at what's going on here. Now this is a technology that we were never told about. This is hidden from our timeline, a clear proof that there is much more to the story than what we've been told, especially since this was not thousands of years ago, and shows how easily history can be rewritten. This technology should be common knowledge at this point. Here we have another angle in Rhode Island of the charging taking place. And if we switch angles here, we can actually see the charging tool that was used right at the top of this tower. They're clearly about to connect to the airship. So this, in my opinion, is clearly explaining what's going on at the top of these old world buildings. They were charging stations for the airships. They have the same features, and I guarantee you that they still turn on, since this was not that long ago. And I'm going to take this time right now to answer a lot of people's question. Will we ever find the truth? As we keep uncovering more and more documented evidence, we're going to find that the previous civilization was not that far in the past, and our current structures hold so much more technology than we ever truly understood. So in my opinion, yes, we are going to find the truth about all of this. We are uncovering the truth faster and faster, and this community gets bigger and bigger, with more and more people sharing their thoughts and knowledge. The mainstream history is becoming comedy hour at this point. So we can clearly see that these buildings all around the world may have had a second purpose, but they were without a doubt here to generate free energy, specifically for airships. And once you realize this, then we can go deeper and ask the question, was the previous civilization capable of using these buildings to power their flight that were so much more powerful, so much faster, and so much more incredible than an airship? I believe that they fully understood this technology. They were the ones that constructed it. They had this technology and were able to travel through the air so much faster than we can today while using the Earth's natural energy. These buildings are technology. They are able to extract the energy and are able to turn it into a fuel. If you're looking for a why, a motive to suppress this technology, well, it would 100% benefit a civilization, us. It's free. There is zero benefit to free transportation, free energy. Do we need to go further for the why? So when you go around your town now and see the top of these buildings, we can all understand how popular this form of transportation really was. It was everywhere. Now, we have talked about Tartaria. We have shown in this episode in the beginning how there are possibly more countries and more land, such as Caucasia. So we have Tartaria, but we also have Barbaria, where you would get the term barbarians. And of course, again, have any of us heard of a place called Barbaria in history class? Maybe you have now, but in mainstream history, this is not something that is taught to us. We're not being told the truth about any of this. And we have many maps of a land called Barbaria. For a bonus today, I have a lot of things that I want to share that I've found in my research, and I don't want to just brush over them, but I do want to share them with you all. I found this photo from Portland, Maine, of the old City Hall. In their newspaper from 1888, they wrote that it was built in 1825 and was used in 1832. So this was going on like 200 years ago, and you can see what they're all riding around on. They were able to build these kind of structures so fast, apparently, that after 63 years, this thing was so outdated and needed to be demolished. And it's interesting because this exact story is given to us all over the USA. And in all honesty, it's all over the world. It's weird how we were told that they lived in sheds, yet could afford to knock down relatively new structures like this. Oh, and we are told that they built this thing with a population of like 8,000 people. Like I said before, anyone on a horse, a donkey, and anyone who had a wagon, a shovel, or a chisel was born with incredible architecture skills in the 1800s. It's incredible stuff. And I know some of you have mentioned this topic in the comments below. Well, here is a conveniently half-destroyed photo from the 1904 World's Fair. And if we just zoom in a little, you can see what this exhibit was. And here's the description we are given. Served as a fair attraction and a working hospital. This is normal for a fair attraction? These fairs have a much darker purpose than what we have been told. Just read that last sentence. They were brought from hospitals to the concessions. Well, they were brought from somewhere, and this is such a weird thing. Using common sense, how many mothers would allow their kid that is born early to leave the hospital to be, in their own words, an attraction at a fair? Let's use our brains a little now. These are not coming from the hospital, in my opinion, that this was an operation to populate these cities again. And when did Ellis Island start taking immigrants? New Year's Day, 1892, perfect time to start an operation. You don't find it odd that right around the exact same time period as these World's Fairs, you have these operations to refill the USA back up with a brand new batch of people. Now let's go back to the airships. Here's a photo from 1935, after they removed the airships from our timeline, and they were using the hangar for the airplanes now. And look at the size of this hangar, just to prove how massive these airships were in comparison. The amount of people that could have been on this airship were in the thousands. Here's a sketch of the interior of an airship, and you can see they were incredible. They had bedrooms, dining areas, all of the things that you would do if you were going to treat a society with respect. Instead of our form of travel now, where we are all just jammed in next to each other and forced to suffer for hours. So I know this isn't a real photo, but honestly, who knows at this point what the previous civilization was capable of? What kind of things were in these airships that we aren't being told about? Water parks? Events? We know these airships were real. They were everywhere, and they were massive, and not a part of the narrative. They put the brakes on them really quick to trick our civilization into thinking that we're advancing into the airplane, when in reality, we had it made with the airship. Now, there are so many pictures of these vehicles all over the place, and they were definitely interesting to look at and wonder, So I want to make sure that I'm able to share these pictures here with everyone so that you don't have to go on a scavenger hunt all over the place for them. And I want to make this point clear, if I haven't already. These airships predate the airplane. And they'll even admit it in the mainstream narrative that the airship was supposedly invented in 1852, which is a lie. It was long before this, and we know that here. And the airplane, as we've covered, was handed over to us in 1903. So 51 years later, rapid speeds, new technology just flying at us, literally. The problem with the 1852 date is that we have depictions of airships that predate the 1800s by civilizations. Knowing this information frees your mind. You are able to think for yourself. You are no longer trapped in the ridiculous mainstream society game that just goes around and around and drives people insane. You can step back and enjoy your life, knowing you are important. Your life is much more meaningful. This place that we all live was filled with great technology. A civilization, in my opinion, that used free technology, possibly no debt, possibly a place where everyone was able to take the time to enjoy their lives instead of working to struggle. Again, it's very important to know this, since we all live in this place, that 100% changes and forms through your thoughts, through all of our thoughts. And when you have a different level of knowledge, your thoughts change for the better. It's very important to know that you are important, and your life is much more meaningful than you were ever made to believe from day one.